We're rolling. Timer starts now. Mark. Hi, I'm Ford.
And I'm Sky. And these are not our real names. These are our superhero names, and with our powers combined, we formed the writing partnership L. Skyford. Welcome to Booklandia.
Today, we're going to review a book, most likely a romance. But before we get much further, did you know you can watch our faces do this episode by subscribing to us on Twitch at L. Skyford or YouTube at L.Skyford? You should really do it. We give good face.
And sometimes there's a dog bomb at Ford's house.
This is true. For our other socials, you can follow us on Twitter at SkyfordL, on Instagram at L.Skyford. And if you're interested in our book, blog, or even more book reviews, head over to our website, lskyford.com.
Lastly, this and every episode are chock full of oversharing and spoilers, and every episode is rated E for explicit. You have been warned.
Year in review.
I was gonna say, do we have the copyright for that?
Considering I just made it up, we absolutely do. I will not contest any copyright claims for that.
Perfect.
Welcome to our final episode of the season of Booklandia. Holy fucking shit, we did it.
Well, we're doing it.
Oh, it's not over yet? This isn't a dream?
No, we should finish this episode first. And then
I was just gonna click cut and be done.
Okay.
Oh my god. Congratulations.
Same
I just have to say
you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Monumental.
It was bigger than expected. And I owe you a humongous thank you for carrying the ginormous pile of rocks that is everything that is a podcast and a social media presence, because I apparently left the cart back on the 405 and you had to go get it.
Oh no, not an abandoned shopping cart on the 405. That's the worst.
Oh, I've just made our podcast sound terrible. No, but genuinely, you put in so much work on this, and I just show up to these recording sessions and hang out. So thank you for all of the emotional labor that you've carried for us. And I, as a New Year's resolution and just like a friend resolution, I vow to do better next year.
Absolutely understandable. We've talked about this offline. We don't need to make this our therapy podcast either. It's been a pleasure, and I want to thank you for being nice to me when I'm a bitch, because I sometimes roll in at 100, and you're like, "It's cool, we're cool, it's fine. I'm not taking any of this personally," and I'm like, "Everything is personal." So, thank you for being the yin to my yang, the sugar in my tea. No, the jam in my tea. That's the more appropriate joke. And, yeah, and you have a lot of mileage now that I'm your ride or die. You can just remind me and I'll be like, that's right. Anything you want.
No, I thought about this, and I know we're gonna move on to books in a second, I promise. But our relationship is the first adult relationship I have, and I don't mean that in a weird way. I mean that in the we did not know each other as young adults or even as college age kids. Our frontal lobes were fully formed by the time we met each other. And I feel like that, or just our personalities, or what we want to accomplish both in our lives and in our relationship, are completely different than the way that I function in my relationships with people that I've known for a really long time. And the level of honesty that I feel like you bring to it, and the level of, like, I know that we can disagree, or I can be an awful human and you can call me out on it, but it doesn't end our relationship, right? Like, you just call me out on the thing that isn't working, and I go, thank you, I acknowledge that, and I try to make it better. And I feel like I can bring the same to you. That isn't necessarily how I feel in my relationships with people who have known me for a really long time. And I realize that you and I have now known each other for a significant amount of time too.
It's
But
now been a coon's age, a
agreed.
raccoon's age, so to speak. Yes.
Agreed. But still, I feel like there are relationships that I have with people that I've known, say in high school or in college, whom I'm
Yeah.
still friends with, and there's an expectation on my part, for some reason, that they will simply know how I feel, or I will simply know how they feel, as opposed to just
Mm.
asking and not feeling weird
Mhm.
about it and not like building up castles in my head about what they might be thinking or what I might be thinking in my relationship with you. And again, this might just be like a you and me thing versus me and other people thing, but I could just be like,
Mm.
hey, I'm feeling this. How are you feeling? And then you respond,
Yeah.
and then we go, cool, these are our feelings. And that's how it works. And
Yeah.
it's kind of awesome in the best way.
I think I have to give us both major props for creating an environment for us to feel comfortable and safe doing that with each other. Like, the level of trust is there, and the the level of, like, faith in each other is there, and because I don't do this with other people either. Um, you're my practice friend. You're my like,
Perfect.
I've it that has connotations, but, like, I know that when I come to you, it's a safe environment. So, like, you have fostered that on your end to make me feel safe, and, it feels like I have done the same somehow miraculously for you. So, like, just mad props to both of us.
Well, this has felt excellent.
Yes, 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 excellent. Um,
Thank you.
I would like to point out today that we have a, nap correspondent. Lolo is here. Lolo, would you like to say anything to the people? Excellent. Um, she told me earlier that her favorite book of the year was The Art of Racing in the Rain because it's been raining and she likes to go fast. And then
uh,
I told her it was about car racing, and she goes, "Are we going on a car ride?" And that
oh,
is where I was like, "No." And here we are.
I feel like we've really delivered on our promises. There is the dog bomb at Ford's house we've been promising this whole
Yeah.
time. She's
Yeah.
very cozy
Yeah.
right now.
Yes, she's on her favorite blanket in her working chair. She believes we're at work now.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, the the purpose of today's episode really is to talk
Yep.
about all the books that we've read this year, or as many as we can cram into one episode's worth of time, and to
Yeah.
really break it down by category. We're going to go really fast. If you uh, if you hear of a title of a book or an author of a book and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, look them up at your favorite
Mhm.
local bookstore. Um,
Yep.
find out what they're all about. If you have favorites that we didn't mention that maybe we've talked about and we've fully forgotten because our brains are chock full of information that keeps moving around a
Yep.
lot, at us.
Yep.
Before we get into all of that, no, you know what? I'm going to hold this until the end. And if we have time for it, then I'll get into
Okay.
it because,
I have a thing I would like to shoehorn in here. I meant to do some, like, statistics work on, like, how many books we read this year and reviewed, and I did it, and I totally fucking dropped the ball. Sorry about it. If you could take this moment to see how many books you read on your personal Goodread, and then we'll add the numbers together. We'll do live math, which is the most thrilling thing anybody has ever heard in a podcast. That'll be amazing.
well,
Although I just
mathematicians are
learned about
probably
this.
okay.
That's true. I learned about the British show Countdown, where they do math on TV, and it's a show. So I'm confused and also slightly intrigued. Tell me about your crazy math brains, human beings. Um Also, I'll just keep talking about my TV recommendations while you do while you pull
Oh,
that up.
I'm good. I've pulled it up, but do
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Oh, no, I was just going to talk about Landscape and Portrait Artist of the Year on Sky Arts.
Very good. So I am on my 65th book of the year.
Okay. That is uh 140 books. We read 140 books this year.
Wow.
I think I did that math right.
That's 100
Yes, I
books
did.
more than I was expecting. I think my like wish for the year was 40. And this is 65, and all of these are books I've read for pleasure rather than because I've also read several that have to do with work. I did not include them in this count, though technically they do count for this year.
Yeah, I guess 52. I was like, I can definitely read a book a week. That's standard, although I haven't finished a book in 2 or 3 at this point, but I landed at 75. So now people know that they can check our math because it's not my strong suit. So 140 book reviews this week or this year. Incroyable.
Yeah,
Go team.
go team.
The majority of those have been contemporary romance. We had a smattering of paranormal, a smattering of historical, a smattering of nonfiction, a sort of larger contingent of YA. Those feel like the major book demographics.
Yeah, very little nonfiction this time around. It's been a year. I wanted it to be light and
Yeah,
fluffy.
yeah. Maybe 1 year I'll be fancy and do like a pie chart. Not this year.
Maybe we'll just ask a friend. A much more
Ask a
pie
friend
chart
to make a pie chart.
friendly.
Right.
Ask a friend. Instead of ask a friend to make a pie, ask them to make a pie chart. This seems like a
Amazing.
totally doable thing. Let's do it.
It
Okay.
requires far less chilled butter.
Exactly. And I always forget that part.
Oh, yeah.
I forget the
All right.
butter temperature. Anyways, swerving.
Yeah.
Swerving all the way into talking about needing stress relief. What was your most stress relieving book of 21?
I am gonna go with Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. My justification for stress relieving was a book that gave me no stress while reading it. I knew that it was going to end happily. The storyline didn't have a lot of like emotional or mental anxiety written into it or baked into it. That book was sweet and delightful and light and fluffy. And Lynn Painter is a wonderful person to follow on the gram. So I highly recommend her and seems like a very lovely human.
Yay.
How about you?
Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. It is not altogether an unstressful read, but boy, is it steamy as all get go. Like, whew. And there were a whole lot of parts of that book where I was like, I have never thought of this before, but now my entire brain is occupied with thinking about this and nothing else. Case in point, deep throating, which has never entered my mind before. And now I'm like, tell me more. And also, I don't have responsibilities. I can just reread this scene a couple of times. So I'm going to go with Neon Gods.
All right. Yeah, no, thinking about the sex in public scenes is very stressful for me. And that is why I did not put it even on the short list of non-stressful.
Got it.
All right. So what was your least stress relieving book?
Picture of Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde. We read it for the podcast, and I had constant notes I wanted to take on that book so we could talk about it on the podcast. It's also it's a lot. Listen to that episode if you need to know more about my feelings on this, but it was really stressful to get through that book. Yeah. So least stress relieving for me.
Yes, that's our crossover episode with Nicole Knudsen from the Godfrey Audio Guide.
Yes.
I don't have an episode number. I'm not that good. I don't know, like 12? 14?
It's labeled. It's labeled, I promise.
It's labeled. It's labeled and it's out there. For me, it was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So YA heist book. Anything heist related is going to, my anxiety level goes to a 9. And then if it's Gentleman Bastard series, I'm at a 12. So like if it's a heist book, I have immediate anxiety. And that book was, though it was a YA, so the interpersonal romantic stories were very light and simple and, longing gazes and holding tights. The heist portion of that was just really great, really well done, well paced. Yeah. Right. Best contemporary romance. This is a big topic because this is the one we read the most of.
Yes,
Where did you land?
thinking about my favorite one actually went and look, and we gave a lot. I gave a lot of books 4 stars, which is unusual for me because
Mm-hmm.
usually there's like a 25% 4 stars and everything else is sort of 3 star. No, this was a high 4 star year, which is lovely. But the
Mm-hmm.
standout for me still, and the reason I picked this one is because when someone's like, I don't know, I'm kind of in a slump, what do I read? This is the book I'm recommending to basically everyone. And it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure, Nani Blake by Claire Christian. And again, we did an episode on it. It is a joy.
Mm-hmm.
Not to my other one would have been Evie Brown by Talia Hibbert.
Yep.
Because
Okay.
that book was also lovely. Why can't I think of the actual full title of it though?
Take a
Oh,
hint.
Act
No,
Your Age,
that's
Eve.
Danny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Act Your Age.
Yep.
But because Sally Hibbert is lovely, her characters were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Again, episode on that as well, actually. So, but Nani Blake was phenomenal. It was so positive in so many ways, and adult relationships that I want to read more of and see
Mm-hmm.
more of IRL. So, yay, Claire Christian.
Yeah. I 100% the same. I was like going through the list and looking at the 4 and 5-star reviews, and Nani Blake just kept bubbling up to the top for me because of how it made me feel. But I think also strangely, because you liked it so much, you sold it to me. You were like the champion of that book for like 2 months in our book club, and, uh, that like, you're a very discerning judge, and so that gave it an extra oomph for me. Uh, yeah, it was also really early in the year, so, like, I have 18,000 books on top of that. Well, 140 books on top of that, but that one still I remember that it was just lovely. I felt lovely having read it. Alright. Best non-contemporary romance, so not in the now.
So I picked One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. And it's kind of not contemporary.
Mhm.
Not spoiler alert at this point because it's been forever since it's been released. And we did an
Yeah.
episode on it. But there's time travel in it, and so one of the two characters is not from the right now, but the other one is. So it's only
Mm.
partially not contemporary. I struggled with whether or not it gets 2 stars or 4 stars, but it is
Mhm.
a standout because I'm still thinking about it.
Interesting. I enjoyed that book, though I did not enjoy that book as much as I enjoyed, Casey McQuiston's first book, Red, White, and Royal Blue. So it's definitely up there. It's in the 4-star range. But I'm going to add that I'm currently reading, so this is already I haven't even finished it, but I'm currently
Same.
reading Bombshell by Sarah McLean, and I'm gonna give it 4 stars. It's
Yes.
great. Well, I'm listening to it, so like the audio performance is lovely. She does a great job. She can do all the accents. There's one American word she says, and I'm like, that's not how Americans say it, but great try. A for effort. I can't remember what it is at this point. But it's a historical romance set in 1830 something?
38,
1830 something.
1838, because I just read a
1838.
sentence that said, if you're a
Great.
woman in 1838, of course you carry a knife. So it's
Uh,
1838. Yeah, later today, as a treat for myself, I'm going to the Ripped Bodice to buy a copy of it so that I can continue reading it and then give it to
mhm.
everyone I know. Yes,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
fun.
so. Shout out to the Ripped Bodice. I checked the inventory; they have it on their shelves. I'm gonna drive over there later
Yay.
today.
Brilliant. That reminds me that I really should just have a reference of, like, women's fashion in historical novels, because I just read Enola Holmes, and I had to look up the fashions for that, and I was like, "Okay, bustle, but, like, how much corset and anything." The whole deal. And in 1938, she's not mentioning a
18.
bustle at all. 1838. Like, so I have to look up, like, what's the deal there? And so I have something in my mind. I don't know if everyone else is like that, but I need what dresses, what are we dealing with here
It's
in our
yeah, in my
clothing
head
taking off
it's like it's
business?
not fully Empire waist, it's not Pride and Prejudice.
Mm,
The waist has dropped a little, the neckline has dropped a little, and the colors are
yeah,
no longer soft muslins. Their silk has been imported. I can go on and on, but I
that is
won't.
e exactly how she described it, so I think you're right on. It sounds like there aren't a lot of petticoats either, so there's not big fluffy shapes happening
I
around a
literally
woman's
just watched
lower
a
side.
video of someone getting dressed in this time period, and it is
Nice.
a crinoline shell. It's the
Mhm.
frame, a petticoat over the frame, a skirt with pockets, and a
Yep.
bodice, or a full
Yeah.
dress all at once. I think.
Yeah, and it sound like chemise, corset over the boobs, not corset under the boobs, corset over the boobs, and then, yeah, dress top. Oh my god, shut up. So
in,
sorry.
in case people are wondering, alarms are going off.
It's time
Also,
for me to wake up.
oh boy. Well,
Yep.
wakey wakey.
I'm here. I'm here. What? Am I late?
All right. Paranormal. Let's move on. Wait. Yeah. No, I'm right. I'm
Yeah.
like, are we moving on to paranormal?
Yeah.
Let's move on to paranormal.
Yes.
Baha. Let's move on to the thing I cannot say.
Absolutely. Um, I chose Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. I'm really surprised at how little paranormal we read this year because that's usually our main bag. Maybe we've
Agreed.
just read all of it, most of it,
Well, we're waiting
the
on a
major
couple of
players.
series. Yeah, we're waiting on a couple of series to get to their next book. Um,
Mhm.
so like I'm waiting on the new Larissa Ione, though maybe I will be waiting for a long time. I don't know that she has. We read her short story that she
Yeah.
released this year, and it sounds like maybe the next full length isn't gonna happen as soon as previously expected. And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the new Cressley Cole. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of the big paranormal players that we're waiting on.
Mhm.
I put Neon Gods
Yeah.
in here, though I just read the extremely short Katie Roberts Krampus short,
Mhm.
and
It's available in her newsletter. So you have
it
to
is
follow her newsletter to get it.
so it's short because it's in the
Mm.
newsletter,
Yeah.
but boy, is it everything. I have all the answers. So in the previous episode, if you guys listened, we briefly mentioned that there were illustrations that went with this. We maybe shocked our
Yeah.
spouses with these illustrations. Um,
Mm.
so I've now read the short story and know
Mhm.
where all the illustrations fit into the storyline. And I have a lot of
Excellent.
answers about all the wet spots.
Wow. Uh, all the illustrations, just for those of you who haven't seen them, Katie Robert has them up on her Instagram. Nope, well,
Twitter.
kind of. Yes, on her Twitter. Link on her Twitter. Um, Krampus has like a 3-foot long tongue, and he uses it
And apparently,
allegedly. I still haven't read the story.
I
No
was gonna say,
spoilers.
okay, never mind.
No spoilers.
You'll
Uh,
just text me
I'm
later
so
when you get to
behind.
it.
Yep. Amazing. Um, yeah, we didn't read we didn't read any uh werewolves really, just some aliens, just some gods. Uh there was some yeah, immortals, So we kept it low key on the paranormal front. What about queer romance?
Okay, so we actually read quite a few, and it was hard for me to pick a
Yeah.
favorite, which
Yeah.
is a joy of joys
Yep.
because,
Mhm.
well, because I relate and I stand and I love them very much, and I'm so glad that there are more of them available in mass market. Oh my gosh, we should not record in the
Good
mornings. My mouth
morning.
doesn't work. Mass market. Okay, so as my favorite, I put in Charm Offensive by Alison
Mhm.
Cochrane,
Walker.
right? Yeah, and
Yep.
it's I did not expect to like that book at all based on the back cover because I don't watch
Mm.
The Bachelor, and then I loved every second of it, and then we did an episode on it. Yeah, you told me.
So you judged the book by its cover.
I by its back cover that had words in it, but 100% yes.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Um, I chose Heartbreak Bakery by A.R. Capetta. Uh, it's a book that's set in Austin, which is my hometown. It is queer. One of the characters is gender fluid. One of the main character is agender, and it it was a book I hadn't read before, like, just no cis characters to be found, set in a bakery, so, like, the food yums were happening, and also a little bit of magic, like, it just had all these little bits of things that I loved, and it just made me feel warm and cuddly and seen, and, yeah, it was delightful. Rainbows. Rainbows
Rainbows.
everywhere.
No
Yeah.
graphics were prepped for this. Sorry.
Damn it. Uh, Finn, can you please drop in a rainbow sound effect? Here. Thank you. He's gonna be like, "God damn it, I don't have time for this."
It's the end of the year. Don't make me. Okay.
Please don't.
YA.
All right. So I'm just gonna fall back on my YA number one favorite, Rachel Lynn Solomon, Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. I can't believe this is the first year I've read it. It's fantastic. Um, Two high school rivals find themselves working together on their last week of high school for a senior game prank thing. Um, all the feelings. It just like she's a magician and she's one of my top 5, top 3 favorite writers for a reason, and I will continue to read everything she does.
Agreed. I have been putting off Weather Girl, just like I've been
Mhm.
stretching the enjoyment.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't want to read it yet. I don't want to read it yet. I want it to be something that I
Yes.
can really give all my brain power to.
Would you say it's the anticipation?
Oh boy. I would actually. So yes, I agree.
Great.
Today, tonight, tomorrow was excellent. We read it early in the year, and again, it's a book that, despite all of the months between me and this book, I have a very clear memory of.
Mhm.
I put "Cool for the Summer" by Dahlia Adler on here. It
Yeah.
surprised the bejeebus out of me. I was
Mm.
about 30% in, and I was like, maybe I will DNF this because I don't know that I'm the demographic for this book. Because it's about a 17-year-old girl spending her summer in North Carolina. And I was like, I don't know, like I'm not 17. This isn't my jam. And then I got past that point, and it it was everything that I needed to read when I was 17, and just validating that
Mhm.
book was so important to me because as a 17-year-old, that book would have, like, blown up my world because it would have given me the words for what I was feeling, which I didn't have at the time, and if you look at my journals from that time, and yes, I still have them, they are a mess. And these are the words that I needed to read back then. So to the 17-year-old me, this book was extremely meaningful. I just read it 20 years too late, essentially. Well, not too late. I turned out just fine, you guys. But I was just so glad that this book existed to the current 17-year-olds that I wanted to give it a shout out.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah. I remember how touched you felt by that book, how seen. So, awesome. Amazing. Let's slide out of romance and into
Shh.
nonfiction. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't read a whole lot of nonfiction this year that wasn't
Mhm.
work related. Um, and so in the nonfiction read for pleasure, I put The Witches Are Coming by Lindy West because I think she's hilarious and
Mhm.
I love listening to her books because she reads them. So you get her intention. And
Mhm.
I left hard enough to have to pull over and go find the restroom. So she made me pee my pants.
Wow. That's high praise. Uh, Fantastic. I, selected There Are Trans People Here by H. Melt. It's a collection of poetry about trans joy and ideal trans life, and I don't read a lot of poetry, but this poetry was accessible and easy to understand and, emotion evoking, and I was cheering along with people and feeling rage with people, and, it's also got a lot of history, trans history in the back. They include a lot of historical elements um, the from before the Stonewall riots through today, and a lot of the trans folks who have been doing the work, who have been at the forefront of equality and trans joy. So, it's delightful. I suggest you read it. It's, it's just delightful, yeah. So next up, back into the realm of fiction. Oh, we're sliding back in. We're diving in. That was a very diving maneuver
Yes,
you
yes, it
made. Yeah,
was.
exactly. Um, Best fantasy.
So I put The Curse of the Spectre Queen by Janie Elder Moak on here because
Whoop,
again, I
whoop.
was super surprised by it.
Yeah,
I was like, it's we read her first novel, Hood, and it was great, but and then we talked to her about it, and she said that it's intended as a middle grade book. It's intended to inspire
mhm.
11-year-olds, and we are not 11-year-olds, and that's absolutely
No,
fine. So that I came into Spectre Queen with that expectation in mind, and then I
same.
was fully taken in by the story and no pressure, but where is book 2?
It's coming out the summer of next year.
I know, I'm very excited because there
Yeah.
is a book 2 in this series, and it
Mhm,
was just good. It was good.
mhm. Yeah,
Those are my words. Well done. Yes. So that's my fantasy. It's Indiana Joan-esque, except with a female protagonist. She's so much more kick-ass because she does it in a skirt, sometimes in
that's
pants.
very true. That's also true. I'd say it's new adult, sort of YA new adult, that sort of soft line there. I agree, but I also read Dune this year, which is like fantasy, like epic fantasy, I guess is the subgenre of fantasy.
Yes, epics,
And it
fantasy.
was yeah, it was everything. It was fantastic. I had more conversations with people about that book and people I don't usually talk books with. Like I talk books with you all the time. People who I at work were like, "You're reading Dune? I loved it. I read and like we'd just spend our entire lunch breaks talking about this book. Um so I recommend it. I'll loan my copy out to well, no, I won't. I love my copy. You can't have it. Go buy your own copy. It's everywhere. Um, it looks intimidating, but it's actually a very accessible read. So I recommend.
Also, in case you watched the HBO's current movie, they only kind of did half the story.
Yeah, that's half the book.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that's why there's gonna be a second movie just to finish that book. Now that feels like that negated my whole thing about it seeming long, but not actually being long,
It's
but the
epic
chapters are
fantasy
short.
though. Right. It's epic fantasy.
Yeah.
So like Star Wars has taken what, 40 years to make. So, and in book
Yeah.
form, Star Wars isn't that long.
Yeah.
But don't come
Yeah.
at me about all the Star Wars books. I know there's a lot. I know. But there's also a lot of Dune
Yeah.
books, so it's fine.
Yeah. The chapters are short, and you don't get mired down in dense descriptive exposition like a lot of fantasy books can do. Um, I'm looking at you, Tom Bombadil. I have never finished Lord of the Rings because of that section right there. Okay, now that I've added someone who has died. Oh, Jesus. I was saving some, truffles to eat during our episode, and I left them on my computer, and now they're melting. So I'm just gonna eat these really quick, y'all.
The sound effects of someone licking their fingers while eating chocolate is exactly what we need for the podcast. So perfect. I mean, I'm not mad. No, but like now that I've really brought that to everyone's attention, why don't
We're now
I
an
talk
ASMR podcast.
unexpected. Let me
Mhm.
talk about Ice Planet Barbarians, which was my choice for sci-fi book of the year by Ruby Dixon. In case you guys haven't seen it blow up all over social media, Ice Planet Barbarians are hot and blue and they have tails. See our or see or and hear our episode about the tailed sexy beasts. I mean that literally.
Mhm.
They also have
Mhm.
an extra penile attachment. We also talk about that. There's a book too. Well, so all of the books have previously been released. They're being re-released because of the uptick in people's knowledge of them on social media because TikTok, Book Talk has brought it to the forefront. So, in case you missed them when they were originally released, which is the case for me, now is the time to catch up. They are steamy in the best, most
Mhm.
escapist, goodbye, this planet, hello, sexy time, other planet type of way. So,
Mhm.
if that's your jam, great. I do have to take us back to that episode because the question you asked is whether or not I think I can live in prehistoric times. And at the time, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't really love it, but I could probably swing it. And then I went to my optometry appointment, and they make you take your glasses off. And I took my glasses off, and I went, oh no, I would be the first to die. I am really, in case these gigantic lenses are not self evident, I am really blind without my glasses. I also have
Mm.
really intense allergies. And so while wheezing and not seeing, I would be the first to be eaten by the nearest carnivorous beast.
I would counter that with, it's a nice planet, so nothing's blooming, so your allergies should be doable, and what if the symbiote that you get injected into your neck fixes your eyeballs?
Okay, that could be useful. I mean, or LASIK surgery. But yeah, symbiote,
Mhm.
excellent. That could be
Yeah.
useful. But yeah, no, sitting there without my glasses, and then they like told me to go somewhere else without my glasses, and I was like, I'm lucky that I have excellent spatial memory because I remember
Mm.
where to go. I can't see where I'm going. And then the doctor proceeded to talk to me for like
Amazing.
15 minutes and show me things on the screen. And I nodded. And I am here to tell you that I saw zero of the things on the screen because it was too far away. And I am very blind.
Amazing. So, what you're saying is you would still have sex with a blue fuzzy blob.
If they could work out going down on me in the way that I imagine they can, yeah, I'd vote yes.
Okay, excellent. Um, we're just dialing in Sky's, like, would fuck, won't fuck. Alright, my best sci-fi of the year, if you listen to last year's Year in Review episode, Will Forever and Always Be Murderbot. This year brought us Fugitive Telemetry, the newest novella from Martha Wells. Murderbot always, Murderbot forever, Murderbot for president.
I am still only halfway through the first one, which I started on New Year's Day of 2021.
I need you to stop reminding me of that. It's really making my ride or die status very difficult to remember.
I'm working on it. It just got shelved.
Not. Don't lie to me.
It's a vacation read and I haven't taken a vacation. How about that?
That's also a lie. You've taken 3 vacations this year.
Okay, not to bring this into a whole new podcast, but
Therapy podcast is back.
Vacationing as a parent, particularly as a mother, or a caregiver who does the emotional labor of planning, is actually not like, it is going to a different place and it is having different positive stressors applied to you. I'm not saying that like going on the adventures we went on this year wasn't exciting. It absolutely was, but it was definitely not relaxing. And
that's true.
Power to anyone who goes on vacations and comes back like fully de-stressed. That is not the kind of vacationing that I have done this year. And I was actually just processing that this morning, thinking forward to our next thing, that I am the person who's going to make the packing lists and make sure that everything's arranged with the house on this end and that everything's arranged on the other end, and that we have daily plans and that specific meal restriction things are taking, like, that is not relaxing, but I'm trying to front load it so that in the moment it could just be on the back burner. But the emotional labor of travel is not light for me. And I don't know if it's because I put it on me or because I have done travel without doing all that prep and then found myself really dysregulated in the moment. And I don't want that. So this might just be my level of control and anxiety, but this is where we're at.
Yeah. No, I think that's an amazing and excellent point, and respect to you. And I know that we've talked about this, and if you don't do it, it doesn't get done, has been a lot of the conversation that we've had. So understandable. Also, Murderbot isn't relaxing or stress relieving. It's stress inducing and delightful. So I understand. I'm gonna reshelve it in my brain next to Gentleman Bastards as a book that you have to be in the mindset for. And I might continue to razz you about not reading it, though.
Totally fine.
Brings me joy.
Fully respect that. Okay. Tell me about short stories. Now that I've told you a short story about what it's like to carry emotional labor, tell me about short stories.
Yeah. Look, all of the parents who listen to this podcast are like, fuck yes, nail on the head. Same as before, it's going to be Fugitive Telemetry by Martha Wells. Murderbot has to solve a mystery where, who done it. It's delightful. How about you?
So Larissa Ione's novella, because I've been waiting for anything by her for a very long time. Bond of Destiny did not disappoint. I really wanted it to be a longer book. If you go back through our reviews, you'll find it. There's some stuff in there that is like, I needed more conversation about the character development, but she has a very complicated world that she's weaved with all of these really complex characters, and it's always a joy to jump back into that world. And even though it was a novella, it felt like I was like, oh, I remember everyone and like the hierarchy of things and where everybody fits. So it was great. It was great.
Great. Favorite series?
Oh, I just read yours and I know. So this one was really tough because we read actually quite a few series. So we've started Ice Planet Barbarians. We are now starting Hell's Bells, which might be really good, but we've only have we are currently reading the first.
Yeah, hold on. I have to talk about how your choice was Ice Planet Barbarians, of which we've read one book, and you are
True.
voting for it to be the best series. And
Mm.
I
Okay.
had some question marks around there because we have read the entire Dreamer series this year.
True story. True story.
And we finished Brown Sisters by Talia
Yes.
Hibbert, which is each of those books has been our favorite book of the moment.
Agreed. Agreed.
So,
I am wrong.
what were you thinking? Okay. All right. I just needed you to admit that you made a mistake.
I absolutely no. I
And
looked at yours and I was
confused.
like, yeah. I looked at yours and I was like, yeah, of course, of course. American Dreamers by Adriana Herrera. The entire series,
Yeah.
every book is a gem. And then the Brown Sisters by Talia Hibbert. Samesies on the gem situation. Case in point, the number of episodes we've done on the Brown Sisters.
This is just a Talia Hibbert stan podcast, so
True story there.
come back. All right. Best comic, because we read some comics.
We do, and I could not remember if I read Sex Criminals this year or last year, and it was going to be what I was going to put on there. I think it's this year, yeah. And but then you brought Fine Print into the mix, and I am speechless from the graphics in that graphic.
So we were very close to doing an episode about that comic, but scheduling didn't happen. So Fine Print is by Stijepan Sejic. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. I did not prepare emotionally to say that.
I think it's Stefan, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh!
The J is silent.
Yes. And then the P is an F. Sure, rather than P. Okay. I'm going to go with Stefan because that is easier to say. And hashtag Team Stefan from Vampire Diaries, always and forever. So Fine Print is erotica, comic erotica. It is extremely explicit visually, and it's nearly porn. And I can confidently say I was titillated and aroused by two female appearing characters getting it on. That scene was delightful. And I was like, oh yes, please. I'm into this. My whole sexual views are just broadening while reading one comic that's this big.
Yes, and this is volume 1, so more of this hotness to come.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want to go on and on about it, but we ain't got the time. So let's take this to break.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take an intermission right here. When we come back, we're going to break down our favorite moment from the book.
And discuss our ratings and if this book made us want to get naked.
Please enjoy this message from one of our friends in the podcasting world. I just licked my computer, so it's chocolate-free now.
I saw you do it, and I thought that was the right time to come back from break. So
excellent. I timed it correctly then. So we're back. We're doing our year in review. Let's get into the real nitty-gritty, sexy bits of the year. Best sex scenes.
Neon Gods. Yes. And then I feel like Ice Barbarians deserve a special mention. But just because I was like, I have questions and you've answered all of them about the weird anatomy of space aliens. So there we go. How about you?
Excellent. I'm going to go back to my last reco, Fine Print by Stefan Sejic. It's a comic, so you have visuals. There are graphic visuals.
Yes.
It's porn. It's porn, y'all.
It's very artful. Very artful.
That's true. That's very true. There's no slapping sound.
You can add that
bracket it
on
off to the side. Yeah.
for yourself. Okay, best not a romance.
I'm gonna go back to my sci-fi choices, which is Dune or Fugitive Telemetry. I just those worlds are immersive for me. I'm happy to be there. You?
Fair. I have not the script says because I couldn't think of one that really stands out.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I'm gonna stay with my have not decided yet.
Okay.
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 Worst book we've read?
Worst book of the year?
Yes.
For me, hands down, Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. It makes me mad just thinking about it now. I still have the book and I haven't burned it yet or given it away and said, I hate you, my enemy. Please enjoy this book. So it's a book for your enemies, not for your friends.
There you go.
You.
I said Heartbreak for Hire because it made me the maddest. By Sonia Hartle. And again, we did an episode on this. I say and like 1,000 times in that episode, and I'm sorry, but I was so worked up that I was trying not to just have a complete mental break. So and like terrible.
That book was very rough, and I was nicer about it. I had a little less strong feelings about it, but it was also not great. Yeah. So, what book do you wish I had read this year?
I tried to think of this, but I feel like you read everything I read.
Okay.
Because your total count of books is greater than mine, so I think you've actually read every book I read. And
I mean, that's 1,000% not true. But I think if you were excited about it, I was like, oh shit, I gotta read that.
Right. So I would say,
I said, you're so discerning.
Well, thank you. So I would say, and I would start at the beginning, The Montague Siblings by Mackenzie Lee. So all 3.5 books. The last of which came out this year, and the previous 2.5 have been out for a while. So that is the series I would recommend. It has all the wonderful things, and it's great. It's cheeky. It's period. It's a little Enola Holmes with way more sex.
And yet you did not vote for it for best series. Again.
I didn't.
What was going on?
I didn't. So the last of the I'm not sure if we've yet posted the review for The Last of the Books. The Last of the Books was very activating for me personally. There's a lot about anxiety and OCD in it, and all of it slammed on top of my brain. I appreciated that it was written, and I talked about this, I think, when we did the Heart Principle review, so you can read it in the Heart Principle review as well. There's just stuff that is very important to be told, and as a person who lives with it, it was heavy on me. And so yeah, so that is what was coloring my decision making in not calling the series up for its accolades. But the stories of those characters are really great. The story is really meaningful. I was just maybe not in the best headspace, being very busy and very stressed to read a book where stress and busyness are the things that are really pushing someone to their breaking point.
I see. Respect. Absolutely get it. The books seem to have a lot of like ships and piracy involved, which I just don't read enough of. So excellent. I'm going to move it up my TBR list. And the book I wish you had read this year, which I would like for you to consider moving up your TBR list, is Heartbreak Bakery by A.R. Capetta that I mentioned earlier, because I think you'll love it.
Just got it from the library this week.
Yay! Boop, 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 boop. Excellent. I hope you enjoy.
Already done. Already up the TBR.
Yes, it's working.
What are you excited for 2022? Book-wise.
Yes, I'm already scheduled to work like a maniac, so I'm looking forward to possibly reading one book next year. Um, and I could not pick just one, so I'm gonna give you my top 3. Uh, the new Jenny Elder Moak, as we mentioned, Rise of the Snake Goddess, I think comes out in June? I don't have that in front of me, but I think it's summer. The new Rachel Lynn Solomon, See You Yesterday, which has a cover so similar to Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, which is very exciting. And then Lynn Painter's new book, Mr. Wrong Number, which comes out January, February, so pretty soon. February, I think. How about you?
Again, I already mentioned this earlier, Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, so it seems like we're both excited for Rachel Lynn Solomon.
Absolutely. Also, it comes out like 2 or 3 weeks into the year, so like your most anticipated book is going to happen, and then you have the rest of the year.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
I mean, also Electric
Start
Idol
off on a
by
bang.
Katie Robert, which is the second in the Neon God series. There's a bunch more. Weather Girl is the one that I'm excited for immediately about that.
Understood. Absolutely. Um, so that's it. That's our year in review.
Yes.
We really sped up there in the end because we looked at the time and we're like, oh shit. Just a little BTS. So what to expect next year? What is on our docket for next season? Give the people a little preview about what we've been talking about but have not decided or landed on.
So come back for season 2. We will be back at the beginning of March with season 2. And if you have been listening to our minisodes, we sort of feel like we've talked about all the things that we had questions about for a little while. So we were thinking of maybe not doing minisodes unless you guys are like, wait, but what about all of the books about farms or all of the books about hockey? Or, I mean, you let me know what those are, and then we will get back to doing minisodes so that maybe there are tropes out there that I'm unaware of. Please fill me in on that. I would love to know what they are. And
yeah, we're talking about, now that we're back to work, and in some cases I'm very soon going to be doing 2 jobs at once, how to make our lives more sustainable. So as we mentioned in a post a while back, we might be doing less posts because we're reading less. Yeah, maybe no minisodes. So we're just sorting it out. January and February is for us to figure out how to reformat and make this sustainable for us, and keep the joy alive. Right? I would like to, I have a wrap up. Do you have anything you'd like to wrap up with?
No, go for it.
Okay. I think lastly, and most importantly, a huge standing, not standing because I'd be too far away from the microphone, ovation for our sound editor, Finnegan Justice Murphy. Woo! Thank you very much for editing out all of our ums and our likes and our clicking, and every time I drink some tea in the episode, and putting in sound effects for us when we force you to. And you make this better, and I mean, on a personal note, you make me and my life better, and I'm glad I married you. Sidebar over. Thank you very much for everything that you have done and the time you've dedicated to us. If you listeners are into role-playing podcasts, please slide over to his, which is the RPG Concierge. Season 1 has been talking about how to start gaming. So if you're new and nervous about playing RPGs, head over. That's it. I love you, Sky.
I love you
Have
back.
a happy end of year.
Thank you, too. I'll see you back sooner than March, but we will see you guys back in March.
Yeah. So are you, dear audience human, gonna pick up this book now that you've heard our review? Let us know in the comments. Have a suggestion for another review? Slide on into our DMs.
If you like this adventure in books or updates on our upcoming projects, please follow, like, save, subscribe, rate, review us on Instagram at l.skyford, on Twitch at